everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. How are you doing in the second week of our Mercury plus Mars retrograde combination? Well, I have good news for you. Today I'm recording this. It is December 14th. It's Saturday. On Sunday, December 15th, Mercury stations direct on the same day as the last full moon in 2024. We're having the full moon in Gemini coming up. And so we're going to be moving a little bit out of a review phase while still reviewing our actions. So our thinking is kind of wrapping up that review. Like, what are my thought processes about this? What are the perspectives I'm holding? How am I communicating? All of that is sort of wrapping up. We still have about a week of shadow, so we won't necessarily feel like it's fully wrapped up. We might feel like we're still going over a few details or still having those quirky tech glitches or miscommunications with people, but it is moving out of Mercury retrograde and starting to move forward again. However, we're still under the influence of Mars retrograde, which lasts until February 20th, 2025. So we're still feeling like I don't know if I can take action, or like I want to take action, but nothing is moving because we're still under a review process. And by the way, there is a full moon in Gemini spirit circle happening tomorrow, December 15th. If you are seeing this in time, you can join us. The link is here and in the description below, and you can hear all about what the cosmos is talking about right now, the guidance and the direction that they're encouraging us to head in, as well as some channeling, live channeling, and psychic Q&A time. And if that sounds like a good time to you, you can join us at the link below, and I'd love to see you there. So with this final full moon in Gemini, we're getting a really interesting message because we're still in this review, right? Which is very much in alignment with what the channelings I've been getting from the Arcturians and the Sirius Golden Circle Council of Sirius have been talking about, which is this reviewing the energy, because you've got the power to create the change you desire. And 2025 is going to be a shift in so many ways, including quite possibly the disclosure of aliens, UFOs, or what we already have that look like those things. If you've been paying attention to the news in New Jersey, you're seeing a lot of drone activity, but it's really weird. And not only that, but it's happening all across the globe. It's happening in Pakistan. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in all these other places, and it's going to be more and more, which means if that information really comes out, really becomes public, and people become aware, that's disclosure and a total perspective shift. It's going to change everyone's thinking. Some people are already there. Other people are going to be like, what? Like, I didn't see that on my bingo card. But yes, that's just one of the major shifts that's coming. And of course, I'm also talking about ascension energy and shifting our consciousness into a higher level of perspective, so much so that the earth itself feels like it's shifted, which it does. I mean, we will experience that shift as well. So we got some big shifts coming, and it's time to consider what we're holding on to that is keeping us sort of locked into a fixed mindset around anything. Specifically, the place my team is always encouraging us to focus is what's going on in here, what's going on in our heart, because that's where we can make the biggest impact. And that impact has a massive ripple effect. And so you're holding the wand of power, if you will. So the image that comes up with this is the King of Wands. And he's holding the wand of power, which means he's got the power to create the reality he desires. And as he's considering how much power he has, he's really reviewing his perspective, because he will create what his perspective is. And so if his perspective is one of pain and suffering, he will create pain and suffering. If his perspective is one of expansion and growth, he will create expansion and growth. If his perspective is everything's always the same, I'm sure you could create that as well. And yet, with the attainment of the wands of power, he has learned, he has gathered that wisdom. You don't take for granted this power. The when we actually can use our power, we must have the wisdom to wield it, which means that I need to be clear on what is my intention, where is this coming from, what is motivating me? Is it motivated from a place of strength, of security, of safety, of service to others, or am I motivated by my fear, by my sense of lack, by my insecurity? Because it's going to affect what I create. And so even though all of that's metaphor, it very much matches what we have in terms of our ability to create our life in the way we wish to. And now a lot of us have the goal, we have the vision, we know what we want, but we don't always check in with our motivation. And sometimes when we check in, we might lie to ourselves because we really want it. And it's hard to look at ourselves. You know this from your own experience, right? You can look at someone else and be like, oh, you're motivated by fear. And yet might feel like I'm confused or it's obscure what's motivating me, because there's a part of us that wants to resist that. But when we can get down to being honest with ourselves and see what drives us, then we can choose again. And that is where our power is. We can choose again. It's okay if you get down to it and you're like, yeah, I'm choosing this because I'm afraid. I'm either afraid of losing something that I've gained already, or I'm afraid if I don't make this choice that I let someone down, or that people abandon me, or whatever it is. It's okay if that's what's in there. The question that this period brings to you is, and what would you shift it to? What would be a better motivation for you? Because that better motivation, that coming from a higher aspect of yourself, is really going to help you experience it, because we're going to create from the level of our awareness. And so if we're not aware what drives us, we're going to create scenarios where maybe this thing we desire comes to us, but it comes to us with such weird energy and such, like, imagine a relationship. You want to be in a relationship because your motivation is you're afraid to be alone. And so you attract a relationship, but it's a horrible relationship, and this person doesn't value you or treat you well, but you're not alone, right? So it's like, ugh, I didn't want to attract from that place. So think about, where do you want to attract from, and then be honest with yourself as you're going over your own goals and your desired location, your desired journey point. What's motivating me to go there? The beautiful thing is, while we're in this Mars retrograde, we're sort of forced to slow down and consider that. So it's the easiest possible time to do it. And bonus, it's at the end of the year. So it's the easiest possible time to do it. It feels very blessed. Even if you're like, but I want things to move forward, or I don't like feeling suspended in energy, I want to move. It's still very much a blessing, because it's really getting you to consider before we go into warp speed into a whole nother reality, which it's getting clearer and clearer that's what's going to happen. Before we go warp speed into that, think about how would okay, let's say you accept that term. Like, you're like, okay, I accept that it's going to all shift in such a crazy way, in such a mind-blowing way. If I accept that, then I can look at, what am I walking into this with? Am I walking into it with fear? Am I afraid of what's going to happen? Am I walking into this with feeling secure, feeling like excited, even feeling like open and like, wow, I'm about to walk into a more powerful time period for myself? Or am I walking into this with deep fear, hesitation, lack, insecurity, right? And how can I shift that? Because these are all stemming from a mindset, and the mindset creates the feelings that makes it feel very real. But really, when we shift in here, when we're shifting what we're thinking about or how we're thinking about it, then we start generating emotions that match those new thoughts, and then it starts feeling easier, right? So if you're, for example, one of the things that's really been hitting me lately, and I've been really trying to stay with it and enjoy it, is just gratitude. And this has been a weird year for me and my family. It's been a little bit hard. My husband, he was working for a job. This was back in the beginning of the year. He had this job that he loved, and the company was being defrauded on a massive level. And he actually ended up doing forensic accounting with it. And in the end, it was too big. The company crumbled and he got let go. And that was really stressful for us because that we didn't see that coming, even though you think you could see that coming. As I explained it to you, I'm like, how do we not see that coming? I think it's because he had a lot of hope this could be corrected. The company had a lot of hope it could be corrected. And we were holding on to that hard, and it just didn't work out. So this year was bumpy because of that. It was really like up and down. The energy of the economy was up and down. People were really polarizing this year as well. So all of it's really up and down. And yet, in the midst of all that, I found such deep gratitude for what is working, and for how I showed up for it, for how my husband showed up, for how my whole family showed up. I have so much deep appreciation and gratitude. And for the people who were there around me and supporting me and my family through this time, just giving us encouragement and love and sending positive energy. I felt so very, very blessed to have all of that during a time that felt very uncomfortable. And so I found that as I focused on those thoughts, that's all I have to do right now is focus on those thoughts, because there was plenty for me to focus on that would create fear and lack and a sense of scarcity and even insecurity and a lack of safety. All of those were there too. But I found those moments of just pure awe and appreciation for what is happening at the same time. And I chose to focus there, and that increased that feeling of like, you know how gratitude, when you get into it, makes you feel so good. You feel so expansive, and you feel so blessed for even the hard parts you find to be a blessing. And so that all starts in here, because either direction I focused was valid, right? I could focus on what wasn't working and get kind of tangled in that and really just down. And that would have been valid because that was part of the experience. But also at the same time as all of that were all those beautiful things I mentioned, the support, the inspiration, and the way I handled it, the way my husband handled all of that. And I could focus on that, and that's legitimately real too. And I expanded in that. And because I've done that, I feel like I've got such a good, for now, really good grasp on it. I want to keep that grasp, which means I have to consciously and intentionally focus on what is working, where I feel blessed, what's also happening, because it's so easy for our brains to sort of cut one narrative off, especially the positive. We cut that off because there's a problem, right? There's a problem happening in my life right now. So therefore, nothing else is good, right? There's this problem here, and the problem is real. I mean, it would be delusional to deny that there's an issue or a problem happening there. But it doesn't negate the other things that are coming with it, which could include solution, or it could include avenues of help that lead to solutions. And when we get really fixated on what's not working in our life and we refuse to see what is, that's what's leading us down that perspective path that takes us lower and lower in frequency, and we create from that state. And then we tend to create more problems, or at least more things that will keep us in a lower frequency state. When we can simultaneously understand, yeah, this is a problem. I didn't want that. I didn't want that experience. But at the same time, as I'm dealing with this negative catalyst, all this beauty is showing up. Even if it's just me acknowledging, look at, I'm handling this. And in the midst of feeling such stress, I'm willing to look for what's working. I'm really proud of myself for that. So my hope in sharing this with you is that if you're in a similar place, or just feeling like it's not working and it sucks and it's hard to change my mood around that, know it's about the thoughts. And you really have to put in that extra effort to be like, okay, but something else is working. Well, my heat's working. That's a positive. Okay. That's on. I have a roof over my head. Yep, that's a positive. There's money in the bank. Yep. Go down that present moment checklist. That will give you ways to find the thing. that you can feel gratitude for. And it's the smallest things can start that cascade of opening up your eyes, opening up your mind, and then shifting your emotional state. Once you can ride that, it's easier to maintain it. It's easier to go back to it. So while you're reviewing, be sure to ask yourself, what's the perspective I'm holding on this? And is that the perspective I desire to create from? And give yourself that space where it's safe to be honest with yourself. If something really isn't working and you're trying to make it work, it's okay to acknowledge that this isn't working. It's not always such a black and white scenario, but the acknowledgement, understanding, how else are you going to fix it? If you're not acknowledging it, it's not working, right? So how are you? What are you motivated by? And how are you thinking about it? Because that will affect your emotional state, which will create it for you. And with that, let's look at this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I've got 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel what is the guidance you're looking for this week. Are you looking for action-related guidance, or do you want to see how things turn out? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you are choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for the 14th through December 21st. And the flavor of this reading, interestingly enough, we've got Mercury, which, like I said, is about to station direct tomorrow. So this is very much about our thinking process. In the sign of Scorpio, which is where this is the truth teller of the zodiac, because Scorpio can get right down to the heart of things. So it's letting us know we're able to get into the heart of our own thought process at this time. And the house that's activated is the 11th house, which is the house ruled by Aquarius, which is the age that we are in. So this is very much about that overall big picture, cutting edge, new thoughts, like I was saying before, like a whole new world, right? This would be that card that represents that. It also represents our hopes, wishes, and goals, and how we relate to one another. The spiritual action at this time is to communicate the extraordinary power of prayer for humanity's sake. So you know how I was talking to you just before about like what you're thinking about will be how you're creating it. Go back to the King of Wands with the Staff of Power, and he's considering a perspective shift, because now I've got this wand of power, and with great power comes great responsibility. So let me check my own perspective, because where I'm coming from is what I'll create. The extraordinary power of prayer for humanity's sake. We're about to walk into the most transformative year ever. This was, as 2024 is like the calm point before the storm, if you will. And the storm, though the word storm can be misleading, as in like be prepared for something harsh. Are there harsh elements to this? Yes, but it's more like the tornado that takes Dorothy out of Kansas and drops her into Oz. A little bit more like that. Then, and so there's an element of, that's, you just got uprooted from one place of being and cast into a completely new world. That's a little bit dramatic. I mean, it's big. But it's how we think about it that creates what comes next. And you don't have to do this alone. You can activate your higher self and higher sources. You can activate source itself. You can say, I am connecting with source and I'm deciding we are on the highest timeline for the good of all humanity. And it is happening now. Communicate that thought. That's what I do every morning. It's like every morning and before we go to bed, as I feel this big energy surging and whipping itself up, I can feel it energetically coming. Many intuitives are like, yep, we're right there. And we're like, oh, here it comes. The wind is starting to blow. As you're feeling that, you do not have to go into the fear state of like, oh my God, I'm bracing for something nasty to come. Is a twister scary if it lifts your house off the ground? Yes. But does that mean you need to be in terror of where you land? No. And I honestly think, again, this time it's like part of it is like if you think about it like a roller coaster, it's a little bit easier to manage it, because on a roller coaster, you're watching it and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks like fun. If you like roller coasters, I know some people don't. I love them, but as you're watching it, you're like, that's fun, and everyone's having a great time, and it looks so easy, and you get on it, and you're on that point where you're clicking up the hill, and of course, they make it very suspenseful, so it really builds that feeling up, and you get that hesitation and like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this to myself? And then, of course, as the ride actually hits its peak and you go through it, then you're having a blast. I feel like it's like that, but with the same energy as Dorothy going from Kansas to Oz. It's big energy. Intend, put it out there, speak it into being, pray for it, that it is a beautiful transition. Say it is so. I am declaring it is so. It is a beautiful transition. I have no doubt in my heart that this will be beautiful and beyond even what I can comprehend. And I've looked at this and tried to open my mind up as much as I can. I'm like, this is going to be bigger than what I see. It's going to be bigger than what others see. We don't know. All I know is that it's what we were here for. It's like the ride is starting. Like we're out of the queue and onto the roller coaster. We're loading up the coaster and we're about to like click, 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 click up that hill. And when it goes, it's like it's already underway, but this is what we're here for. And there's so much build up happening now. So again, intend from the personal level that it's going to be the best thing ever, and you will help create it. You have the wand of power. Now, how will you wield it? Mental action at this time: analyze the highest and lowest aspects of your hopes and wishes. This one feels very much like what they were saying before. It's like, look at the motivation. Why are you doing what you do? Why are you going after what you go after? Why do you want what you want? What's the highest frequency version of your motivation? What's the lowest frequency version of your motivation? So might be the highest frequency is I want to spread beauty and joy, and the lowest version is like I need money. Like I need money yesterday. Like it needs to happen. I'm worried that if I don't make money at this, I'm going to lose what I have, right? So that's the lowest motivation. Now, we're not making either one wrong. And I know that for some people, they're like, that's a legitimate motivation, Therese. Like, don't knock it. Not knocking it, but you can feel the fear coming from this. I need this to happen or else. If you hear or else, that sounds like a threat, right? That's coming from the mind. That's like bad things happen. That's what I mean when I say it's a lower motivation. Not that making money is low in and of itself, but rather the fear that if I don't make it, I lose something. That's the lower motivation. So it's asking us to look at the highest, look at the lowest, and analyze them. Now that you see them both, where would you rather be coming from? What feels like a better perspective to create from? Remember my previous example. You want to be in a relationship because the motivation is I'm afraid to be alone. So you do attract the relationship, but it's not a good one. Whereas I want to be in a relationship because I want to share my values, my hopes, my dreams with someone who matches me. I want to give love and respect to someone who will love and respect me back. Well, that's a much higher motivation, right? And you will then be attracting the match to that. So it's just for us to really get clear, right? We're being honest with ourselves. We're like, what could be, and could both exist in us? Absolutely. That's why we're analyzing it and seeing which ones are at work here when it comes to my goals, my wishes and dreams. And what's really like, what seems to be more of the driver, this lower feeling or this higher one? And how can I, if it's in the lower aspect, switch it to the higher one? Physical action at this time: let your mind tell you how to control the situation and do it for the future. Everything we've just said. Everything we just said. Remember, everything starts with your thinking. Your thinking creates your emotions. Your emotion creates your attitude and behavior. Your attitude and behavior creates your actions, and your actions create your outcome. Now, right now, we're being stalled at the action level, which means we can go backwards and go, well, what's my attitude about this? Or what's my feeling about this? And what thought creates that feeling? If you can get down to the thought, that's the seed point, and that is the thing you can shift. You can change your mind. You can change your mind about this. When you change your mind about it, that's where you have the control to shift things in your own future. So again, when we're analyzing, where's my motivation and what am I thinking about this? And if we're, again, like I said before, you can have a scenario where multiple things are happening. The worst is happening, the best is happening. What am I focusing on? Well, my mind is focused on how shitty this is, right? Well, then I know I'm in a bad mood when I think about it. I don't feel so great because no one wants to think about it like that. And if I'm in that mood, then I might be feeling sorry for myself, which creates that victim mentality, which becomes my behavior and how I take actions. And then the result is something lower. So the control mechanism is the thought. And if you're like, well, I want to feel good, but I don't know what thoughts to think, examine the thoughts you have. If you're not feeling good right now, look to the thought. Okay, it's like I feel neglected. All right, what thoughts are creating that? Well, this person is ignoring me, or I feel neglected because, oh, here's the truth. I've neglected myself in some way. I'm neglecting myself and expecting others to fill that in. Oh, boom, there it is. There's the thought. And now it's like, well, I can choose now to pay attention to myself and honor myself and love myself and nurture myself. And as I do that, I start to feel better. And as I start to feel better, my behavior is one of empowerment. I feel more secure. And from there, I take my actions and then I get my outcomes. All right, now let's look at outcomes for Mercury in Scorpio in the 11th house of our future. Spiritual outcome at this time, the awareness of purification to resurrect freedom. Boom, I love that. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but it's like, again, this period of time being forced to review because it's like, I can't get my actions to work. They're not working the way I want them to. And again, the influence from the cosmos right now is like, think about it. Like, think about what you're doing. Think about what motivates you. As we gather that awareness, there is a purification. Like I said, you can change your mind. The king's standing there with his wand of power and he's like, oh, before I do something, I can change my perspective. Let me just review with myself. How am I thinking about things? Because if I think the world's a crappy place and I use my wand to go poof, make it better, where's the motivation coming from? I don't like the way things are. What if the way things are were actually working quite well and you just didn't like it, right? So again, looking at motivation before wielding the power creates a purification of the mind, allowing you to experience true freedom in your future. Because like I said, we're not going to attract crappy things now. We don't want to. That's why we're in a review process. And that's what the king is doing with that wand, right? He's like, I don't want to create crappy things. I want to create good things. So let me pause and consider how I look at things now before I start sending this energy out. And that makes all the difference. Mental outcome at this time, many thoughts about or from the secrets of associations. Yes, associations in this case, meaning how you associate things. Like, again, 2024, if you had asked me maybe back in, I feel like August was maybe the point at which I wanted to tear out my hair a little bit. Things got better then. But up until that point, I was like, 2024 sucks. It sucks. What a sucky year. How disappointing can you be? And now here I am in the end of December and I'm like, what a gift. And I'm not being facetious when I say that. I'm just giggling about how extreme that shift is. Like, what a gift. And it's not because external things changed so drastically, but how I viewed it. How I viewed it made all the difference. My heart just feels like it keeps opening because I'm so, like, I'm going to get emotional now, but I'm just so in awe of how, when you claim that the universe has your back, and that is one of my mantras that I spread to other people. I have it like printed on cards that I give to people. It's like the universe has your back and is conspiring in your favor. And when things are hard, I say that mantra all day long. I'm like, you've got my back, and you're conspiring in my favor. I know it. I know things are turning around. I declare it so much that I make it true. And then when you actually see how that works, because it's a thought that creates a feeling, that creates an attitude, that creates the actions, that creates the outcomes. When you hold true to those things, and a lot of people are like, I don't know how affirmations work. I feel like it's just trying to tell yourself nice things. In the beginning, yeah, that's all it feels like, is I'm just trying to tell myself nice things. But when you make it a mantra, when it's something you repeat to yourself over and over to the point where you don't even have to think the words that just come out of your mouth, you are creating a set point in your own brain to think from that place, and you are adjusting yourself to match those words. And that's how it happens. So the secrets of associations are so powerful. Again, when you look at a time period, when you look at this month, just this month alone, and how things are going, what are you associating it with? Are you associating with stress or pain, or are you associating it with joy and gratitude and love, or something in the middle? What are you associating that with? Your bigger associations. How does life treat you? What do you believe about that? I had this beautiful conversation with Lisa Tahir, who will be, her podcast will be coming out on December 24th. We were talking about our core beliefs, and I really want you to listen to that one, because I asked her, I said, a lot of times I think people feel fuzzy when you ask them that question, what are your core values and your core beliefs? I said, how do you get to that? And she goes, well, what do you want them to be? And I'm like, oh, so if I ask myself, what do I want my core belief to be? Or what do I want my association to be with this? You'll find out, one, is what you want it to be what it is? Like, do you believe that when you say it? Or you want it to be that because what you really think, like, I want the universe to have my back because I really feel alone in the universe, like no one's got my back. What's going on there? For me, the universe has my back and is conspiring in my favor. And now I'm going to take it further. It's conspiring in your favor. I believe it. Like, I have conviction around that. I am deeply in belief there. So it is a core belief of mine. But if I were to challenge myself and be like, can you have it all? I want to believe that, yeah, you can have it all. And there might be a part of me goes, but I haven't experienced that yet, so I don't know if that's possible. So there's my core belief. I don't know yet. I want it to be like, sure, you can have it all. Of course you can. You're a creator being. I want that to be the case. My core belief might be like, I'm waiting to see, because I haven't seen that yet. That's okay. The point is to get clear on it. And as you understand your own associations, the awareness is the key. It's the power, and it gives you the power to plant a new seed. Because let's look at the thing I just outed myself on. Can you have it all? I want to believe that. I feel like the realist in me goes, no, you can't. And then there's another part of me goes, well, you can't, but you have to compromise, right? You have to compromise something. So no, you can't have it all. So do you see how I'm like, well, maybe that belief is too hard for me to get to. Maybe there's a middle ground. Like, again, it's like you can have what you want, but there's a compromise. There it is. There's my core belief. I just found it. You can have what you want, but there's always a compromise, right? It's hard to do it all. Now, I'm not sharing that with you because I'm saying you can't have it all. I'm just saying that that's how I'm getting to my awareness around that particular statement. Is if you had asked me before, I'd be like, I hope so. But that's not my answer. My answer is no, there's always a compromise. But let's say I wanted to shift that. Then I'd have to work on that and be like, why? I'd have to dig in and ask myself more questions to figure out if I could shift it. Or I might go, that's a happy spot for me to be. Like, I feel like that's realistic and it keeps me grounded, keeps me tethered to something that's very tangible and practical. And so I appreciate that about myself. That's how we get this level of awareness, and that's how you unlock the secret of what's blocking you and what's helping you. All right, physical outcome at this time, many words resulting from the power of your circle of friends. This feels like it's talking about how you're going to discover the people around you are in some way a vibrational match to where you're at, right? And so you might find that you have a couple different groups. One group who's very much associated with your higher level of thinking, and another who's associated with your lower level of thinking. It's like you can tell who these are because one group of friends might be the people you go to uplift you and inspire you and like pull you into the higher energy, and another group might be the people you go and you complain with, right? So I think we all have that. If you're trying to shift something, be aware. If you're trying to shift a lower complaintive thought into a higher thought, go into your friends who you like to complain with. It's probably not going to work best there. You can't shift them with you. They have to shift themselves. And so you got to be aware. This isn't to say you can only hang out with the high vibing people and the complaint. No. But if you're trying to make a shift on something, consider who you share that information with, because it will be affecting your psyche. If someone's like, that's BS, look, of course it's hard. Like, why wouldn't you focus on that? That's how you're going to get out of this, is you have to focus on how hard this is. And, oh, it's so terrible. And life was better for you before. Don't you think? All of that just takes the wind out of your sails of trying to see the positive that may be coexisting with the negative around you. And it's the same thing when you have people in your life who only want to focus on the positive. They might be like in denial. Oh, it's going to be fine. You're fine. Like, look, everything. And it's like, that's why we usually have the two groups, right? Because usually in there's a balance where it's like, when I need to deal with how crappy this feels, I want to talk to somebody who will relate to me at that level. And then there are other times where it's like, I want to focus on how do I fix it and how do I get out of it? I need those people who are helping me see the bigger picture or helping me focus on that. And, there's those rare cases where you find people who do both, and they're gems, right? Those are the gems. But in the meantime, be aware of, if you're trying to shift something and you're talking to your friend that you like to complain with, they're probably not going to shift with you, or they might reverse your shift by bringing you back into the problem. And the same with the people who are overly positive. It's like, you want to find that balance point. It might be, as much as it's talking about our friends right now, it might be an important time to focus in on you. Like, this is more meditative work and journaling work and internal work where you're really going over this. And there might be that one gem that you could kind of talk with about this and sort of work through it. But ultimately, it's going to be your decisions, right? If you're looking for like a unanimous vote or someone to validate you, that's where I feel like they're saying this could get sort of messy when you're looking for someone to be like, yeah, or what? Like, you can't shift that. You can't do that. That's going to happen the way it's going to happen. So it is one of those situations where you benefit from more time with yourself and your team around this. And then if you've got that person who's got the balanced perspective, who can help you see both, like can acknowledge what's negative, but can also see the positive or see the blessings, that's a great person. Otherwise, at this time, it feels easier to shift by doing that work, kind of you and your team. So with that, I just wanted to say, if you are loving this conversation, you want to go deeper, or you need help making that perspective shift, that's something that I specialize in, and I would love to chat with you about that. You can go to the link below and you could sign up for a reading if you'd like to go deeper into this. And of course, I also offer one-to-one coaching if you really want more support as you do this deeper work. And if you're loving this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me with the algorithms. I'm a tiny channel in a sea of channels on YouTube, and I could use all the help I can get. So if you're liking this, share it, subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Are you feeling this energy, especially around 2025? I know so many intuitive people are. And I bet you are too. So let me know in the comments below. And of course, I cannot wait to see you at the next Karma Cards. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah.